Well, welcome back to Circuit Zolder, everybody, for our second race of the weekend, but it's the first race for the EuroNASCAR 2 competitors that's coming up onto circuit very, very shortly. Zolder was Belgium's first ever purpose-built circuit, and as always, a bustling national venue, having had a fair share of international limelight as well, being a backdrop to Formula One through the 1970s and the 1980s. But racing in the corner of Limburg, this area of Belgium, has been going on since the 1950s, originally around the streets and the town square. However, something more permanent and less dangerous was needed, and hence this plot of land was established, and the first circuit was just 1.56 or 2.6 kilometres. Exciting to return to Belgium. Here Circuit Zolder has played host to the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series since 2015, but it's actually the second weekend of racing we've had so far this year. The first weekend of racing, we went to a brand new circuit on the calendar, Vallelunga in Italy, just outside of Rome. So let's look back at some of the highlights from the weekend in Vallelunga. So back-to-back wins in Vallelunga in EuroNASCAR 2 for the driver making his debut in the series, Tobias Douwenhauer, driver who came through the recruitment programme of EuroNASCAR over the course of the winter. So it's great to return to Circuit Zolder, and it's a circuit, as I say, that's played host to the Belgian round of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. Not exclusively, because we've been to Spa in the past, back in 2012, but since 2015, Zolder has been the home to the Belgian round of the EuroNASCAR Series. It's a circuit that also we managed to have a conversation with Jacques Villeneuve about earlier on in the weekend. We're just going to have a quick look at the circuit map, though, before we chat to Jack and gauge his thoughts on this circuit. 16 turns to the circuit. It's a 4-kilometre or 2.485-mile track with a mixture of long straights and some chicanes to slow down some of the older parts of the track. So we caught up with EuroNASCAR Pro driver Jacques Villeneuve to gauge his thoughts on his visit to Zolder.
Zolder, a very complicated track in NASCAR anyway. Turn 1, there's no reference point for braking, so and it's all dark also, so visually it's difficult to see where the corner is. And it's a very wide corner where you can turn in tight, wide, many different lines, complex. Then you arrive into turn 2 where you just have to carry speed. You slow down, but you don't brake hard. You have to carry speed through the corner, and all the way out, it's always turning. It's not a corner where the exit is straight. Then turn 3 is completely flat out with a little bit of banking. That's not so bad, in the dry anyway. Turn 4 is a corner where you just touch the brakes a little bit and you carry the speed in. It's quite quick. Then you get into a chicane that's not very fun to drive, and you have to take a lot of curbing, so you can lose a lot of time. You also damage the car when you take a lot of curb and go fast. Then you go over the hump. It's a blind corner, but it's flat out into the next chicane, which is quite tight, very slippery. There's tires to avoid. If you can take the curbs a lot, you can gain a lot of time. The whole exit is in acceleration. The first bit you have to lift a little bit to make the car turn, then it's flat out all the way. The car normally moves a little bit, but you manage to just make it flat out. To get into the hairpin, you hit the brakes as you get off the hill at the bottom. Very tight corner, so the tendency is to go straight, to lock the rear wheels. Maybe put first gear if you have understeer to turn the car. Difficult corner, an overtaking zone. Last acceleration into the last chicane where there's also the pit entrance. Also a tight corner in second gear where there's a heavy braking and should be another braking zone. But if you mess up there, then you won't have any good exit and you'll get overtaken to the next straight line.
So there we go, that's Jacques Villeneuve's view on a lap around this 4-kilometre or 2.485-mile Circuit Zolder, in the view of the 1997 Formula 1 World Champion. Of course, he was the 1995 kart champion, won the Indy 500 that year as well. He is, of course, one of our drivers that we see competing in EuroNASCAR Pro. They had their race earlier on. So the grid is beginning to form now. Now, this is EuroNASCAR 2 that is out there now. So this is for the young and the amateur drivers, but also includes things like the Legend Trophy, which is for drivers aged over 40 years of age. It also includes the Rookie Trophy, which is for drivers making their debut season in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, and that's regardless of any age restrictions or experience on there as well. And we've also got the Lady Trophy as well for the female drivers amongst them, of which there are 2 on the grid. One of them having gone really well in qualifying. We'll go through the grid in a bit, but quickest of the ladies as the national anthems play on the build-up to our first EuroNASCAR 2 race. Julia Landauer, new to the series, the 28-year-old American who's been racing in NASCAR Pinty's in the past. She's done a bit of K&M Pro, East and West as well. And another driver that sort of has been involved in the recruitment programme to come over and race in the UK, 4th quickest in qualifying, so a really good run from here. The other female we've got on the grid is Ariana Casserly, who is a former Lady Trophy, as it used to be called, champion. As for the grid itself, well, the drivers on the EuroNASCAR 2 entry list, of course, what tends to happen is that the champion, if in the case of Lasse Sorensen last year and his predecessors as well, they win the EuroNASCAR 2 championship and then step up to EuroNASCAR Pro, the top flight. So as a consequence, of the drivers on the grid this weekend that have previously claimed a career win in EuroNASCAR 2, there are only actually 4 of them on the grid. Everybody else has never won in this category. The driver who's on pole position is Martin Dubeck. Amazingly, he is as yet still to win in EuroNASCAR 2, but the driver alongside him, that's the black car with the red and the white and the blue stripe down the centre of it, that is back-to-back winner at Vallelunga, Tobias Nauenhauer, so he's claimed 2 wins in the past. Other drivers on this grid that have claimed wins: third position, the Solaris Motorsport Chevrolet Camaro that we saw Francesco Cini driving in the EuroNASCAR Pro race earlier on. That's the orange and black car to the right of your screens. Nicholas Risitano has won a race. He won a race last year at Valencia Circuit Ricardo Tormo. That's his only career win so far. We've also got Vittorio Garelli on the grid, who's down in 11th position. He claimed a victory last year as well. And the only other driver on the grid who has claimed wins at this level before is the driver who returns to the championship for the 2020 season, having had a breakaway racing in the European GT4 series. But that is Guillaume Dumoulin, who lines up his number 24 PK Car Sport Chevy. That's the car that Alan Day drove in the Elite Pro race earlier on, or the EuroNASCAR Pro race earlier on, as it's called for this year. He's claimed 2 wins in the past, and one of those did come here at Zolder, so he's the only driver on this grid that has previously been to victory lane at this circuit. So we'll wait and see as to what happens over the course of this EuroNASCAR 2 race, which is scheduled to be held over 15 laps, so a slightly shorter race for EuroNASCAR 2. They will have a 15-lap race. That equates to just over 60 kilometres around this circuit. So let's just guide you through the grid then as the mechanics and officials begin to disappear on the build-up to this race. The car that is at the front of your screens on the right-hand side, so it's the black car with its blue and its day-glow flashes to it, that is the number 7 Hendrix Ford of Martin Dubeck. We saw Martin Dubeck out in the EuroNASCAR Pro race earlier on, taking over that car from the British driver Daniel Rowbottom, who was driving it at Vallelunga but isn't able to travel due to COVID-19 restrictions that we have in the UK at the moment. So he's out for his second race of the day. For everybody else, it's just their first race of the day, really. And alongside him on the front row of the grid, as we say, is the number 50 Hendrix Ford. So it's a Ford Mustang lockout on the front row of the grid and a Hendrix Motorsport lockout. It's that car there. Tobias Nauenhauer comes into this weekend, 2 wins out of 2, leading the championship in the early stages. He sits there on the outside of the front row of the grid. Onto row number 2, that's where we see the number 12 Solaris Motorsport Chevrolet Camaro of Nicholas Risitano. That's the orange car with the black flashes to it off on the left of your screen. And alongside is number 11, it's the PK Car Sport Chevrolet Camaro of Julia Landauer. That's the car. Julia Landauer, who should have lined up in that position on the grid, but has actually given a penalty and was dropped down through the order. So Nicholas Risitano is now joined by number 6, Simon Palat, who is alongside at the wheel of the Feedvict racing car. The third row of the grid sees 66, which is Andreas Jochimsen, line up alongside the number 8 car of Alessandro Brigatti, 66 and 8. And row 4 of the grid is number 24, which is Guillaume Dumoulin, and he's the only previous winner here at Zolder that's on the grid, alongside 98, which is Dylan Derdala, 24 and 98. The fifth row of the grid is number 11, which is Julia Landauer. A 5-place grid drop for her was one of the results that was made, or decisions that was made by the officials. So say she qualified 4th but drops to 9th, and alongside is number 18, which is Vittorio Garelli, 11 and 18. And row 6 of the grid is 48, which is Yevgeny Sokolovsky, and number 1, which is Vladimir Zjoitzes, 48 and 1 on row number 6. The 7th row of the grid is 88, that is Max Lancer, and 42, which is Francesco Garisto, 88 and 42, with row 8 being 64, Matthias Hauer, and 43, Paul van Pollart, 64 and number 43. Row 9 of the grid is 33, Eric Quintal, and then 17, which is Alex Jompi, 33 and 17. Row 10 is number 54, which is Ariano Casoli, and number 89. Number 89 is Igor Romanov. Now, Igor originally was pushed to the back of the grid, a 10-place grid drop for him, so he is down right towards the tail end of the field, and at the back of the grid hadn't been feeling very well earlier on today with some sort of stomach bug, but hopefully a mixture of a little bit of rest and probably some medication should see the American driver number 22 Andre Castro, who entirely missed qualifying, line up at the tail end of the field. But I'm looking towards the back end of the field as the drivers are told to start their engines. and I can't see Andre Castro's car at the back of the field, so I do wonder if maybe he's still feeling a little bit under the weather. If that's the case, get well soon, Andre. Hopefully we'll see him out for tomorrow's EuroNASCAR 2 race that takes place tomorrow morning. So 1 minute to go. The cars are going to head off what I gather may well be another safety car start, is the news that I heard a few moments ago. The circuit's certainly looking drier, a lot drier than it was for the EuroNASCAR Pro race earlier on. But for the EuroNASCAR 2 drivers, then we'll see as to what the level of conditions is. We had, was it 4 laps behind the safety car before we then truly got the race underway? So the race started under safety car, 4 laps were done behind it before we finally saw the green flag and we could get racing for real. So hopefully with a slightly drier circuit, but low ambient temperatures still here in Belgium, and the wet track, and drivers that maybe are in their first few races of EuroNASCAR. There's a few of them on the grid, and the officials taking the decision just to probably have a lap or 2 behind safety car, I would have thought, before we then get things going. So green flag should wave any second, and then we will get the rolling lap underway. So off they go onto their formation lap, and being led around by the safety car. There's no real ball of spray being kicked up by these cars this time, even at the reduced speed that they're at for this formation lap. The race earlier on, you could already see spray coming out the back of the cars, so the circuit is damp, don't get me wrong. It's still damp, it's still wet, it's greasy. It's probably worse conditions in some respects, because it's sort of that horrible area that drivers just don't like, where it's neither wet nor is it dry. It's just horrible and greasy, so that actually makes it slightly more difficult. So I gather we will be starting potentially on the safety car. Now, I mentioned these other categories that we have. So this is EuroNASCAR 2, but we've got the Legend Trophy for drivers aged over 40, we've got the Rookie Cup for those in their first season, and we've got the Lady Cup. Well, the first of the rookies on the grid, outside of the front row of the grid, Tobias Dauenhauer. The first of the ladies on the grid is Julia Landauer. I say qualified 4th, but drops to 9th as a result of a penalty. And the first of the legends that will be on the grid is going to be Yevgeny Sokolovsky, who is driving the number 48 car. We'll keep an eye on the progress in each one of those respective categories whilst the race wears on. So 2 Fords on the front row of the grid, 2 Chevys on row number 2. It's one of the EuroNASCAR FJ cars that sits there on the 3rd row of the grid, Simon Palat's car, alongside another Chevy. All Chevy 4th row of the grid, all Ford 5th row of the grid. It's a Ford and a Chevy on row number 6, with a Ford and EuroNASCAR on row number 7. So we'll wait and see as to who's going to come out on top in this one. Tobias Dauenhauer was dominant at Vallelunga, and nobody could really apply any real pressure to him in great spadefuls over the weekend. There was bits of pressure here and there, but Tobias Dauenhauer coped with it admirably and was able to walk away, the 22-year-old German, with a double race victory at Vallelunga. And let's see how he gets on. Driver who's previously raced in things like ADAC, GT4, we've seen him in Blancpain, and the Spa 24 Hours as well, Tobias Dauenhauer, whereas Martin Dubeck, who lines up alongside him on that front row of the grid, so joined EuroNASCAR in 2015. Prior to that was doing a bit of FIA, CIK karting, but it's really largely EuroNASCAR that we've seen Martin Dubeck competing in. So safety car should continue around for a further lap, which it is doing, so it will continue around for at least one more 4-kilometre lap. Row 2 of the grid is number 12, Nicholas Risitano, 32 years of age, the Italian, another driver that started in karting. He was a very, very good kart racer, having raced in the European Junior Karting Championship and was the champion in that back in 2003, so some years ago now. He was our rookie champion back in 2018 in EuroNASCAR. He finished 5th in the EuroNASCAR 2 standings last year. So that's the orange and black car that's weaving around to try and build as much temperature as it can, that is going to line up 3rd on the grid. And 4th on the grid at this stage is going to be number 6, which is Simon Palat. Simon is one of the younger drivers, if not the youngest, not quite the youngest. I think Francisco Caristo is a little bit younger than him, but Simon is only 18 years of age still. He was a semi-finalist in the Feed Vict Racing's 2019 selection process, so that was why he managed to get this plum drive, really, with the new team for this year, Feed Vict, that is jointly owned by former Formula 1 World Champion Jacques Villeneuve and Patrick Lemery, both of those competing in EuroNASCAR Pro. But for Simon Palat, it gives the young Belgian great opportunity to see what he might be able to do and try and carve a nice little career for himself in EuroNASCAR, and possibly from there as other drivers have done in the past, head over to the other side of the Atlantic and experience NASCAR, whether it be in Canada, in Mexico, or of course all of the various rungs of the ladder that exist over in America. Third row of the grid is number 66, which is Andreas Jochumsen, the 23-year-old Dane, Super GT AM champion in Denmark. In 2019, we saw him racing in Thunder Sports for a couple of years prior to that. He also did a bit of FIA, CIA karting in the past. That's the number 66 car. And alongside him is number 8, which is Alessandro Brigatti. Only 19 years of age still, finished 11th in EuroNASCAR 2 last year. And the young Italian, again, will be hoping that he might be able to do something this weekend. Alessandro Brigatti, he finished 3rd in the first race at Vallelunga, his home NASCAR Grand Prix, and was 2nd in the second of those races, so desperate to see whether he might be able to do something from 6th on the grid to overhaul the dominance of Tobias Dauenhauer, who sits there on the outside of the front row of the grid. So safety car still bringing them round. I have a feeling we might possibly have one further lap still. Now, certainly looks substantively drier than it was earlier on, but bearing in mind the NASCAR Pro drivers have largely a lot more racing experience, in particular of these big, heavy cars, which are 450 brake horsepower. There's 4-speed manual gearbox, and as I mentioned earlier on, if you're watching for the EuroNASCAR Pro race, it's pure racing. It's absolutely pure racing. There are no electronic gizmos on these cars at all, so the drivers cannot tweak the settings on ABS, because there is no ABS. They cannot tweak the rear differential settings or traction control settings, because there is no traction control. It is a raw, a pure car that delivers fantastic racing. So weaving from side to side, trying to maintain some temperatures in the control general tyres that all of these cars run nowadays in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, trying to build the temperatures in the brakes as well and try and maintain those temperatures over the course of the rolling lap. But as we say, in reality, the race has already started. We are now on our 2nd lap of the race, albeit both of them so far have remained behind the safety car. If you didn't join us for the EuroNASCAR Pro race that we had earlier on, bear in mind the fastest lap times the drivers set in this race also have a significant bearing on where they'll line up on the grid for tomorrow, because it's the fastest laps from this race that give us the way the grid will line up tomorrow. So what we might see is drivers, if they are perhaps just struggling to try and overtake and just bottle up the car behind, they might drop back for a couple of laps, not by much, but just enough so that they can accelerate and pop a quick lap in, and that quick lap potentially might mean that they will start ahead of the car in the race tomorrow that is bottling them up. So we do see that tactic being used by teams, and particularly around this circuit where it's not the easiest to pass. If the car ahead gets cleanly off the corner and down the next straight, it is very difficult to try and outbrake it, and that's the key. Get off the corners well, carry then that momentum all the way down the next straight, and it really does give you a good opportunity to hang on to the position, even if you're a little bit slower. But getting clean off the corners really means that it's tough for the car behind to try and work its way through. Safety car will be in at the end of this lap. We are about to get things underway for the EuroNASCAR 2 division here at Circuit Zolder. Their first race of the weekend. Their second race is coming up tomorrow in the morning, so it will be around on the stream. We go live Central European summertime, just gone 11 o'clock in the morning if you're watching over in the US now. Thanks for joining us for this one. Set your alarm nice and early. You need to be up for about 5:05 to tune in for the stream, albeit the race will get going about 15 minutes after that if you want to see the second EuroNASCAR 2 race of the weekend here from Circuit Zolder. So safety car will peel its way left any second in towards a little gap that exists for it at the Jackie X chicane, and because it's a safety car restart, it will be single file. So Martin Dubeck will get the hammer down and buckle up, everybody. We're about to go green for the first time at Circuit Zolder for EuroNASCAR 2. Martin Dubeck looking to try and steal the march on Tobias Dauenhauer as they head over the start finish line. Green flag flies and away we go. And a racing good start from Martin Dubeck by the look of things. Tobias Dauenhauer in second place, Nicholas Risitano slotting into third position, and fourth place is Simon Palat, who's there in fourth place, with Andreas Jochumsen in the green car slotting into fifth place. But already it looks as though Martin Dubeck has built a little bit of an advantage between himself and Tobias Dauenhauer, who is fighting away with the number 12 Chevrolet Camaro of Nicholas Risitano. So there's the gap. And that is already the best part of a second, I would say. Really has been quick out the box for Martin Dubeck, who must have been working that car hard under safety car to build as much tyre temperature as he could and brake temperature. So he leads the race. It's the Czech that leads the race. It is Tobias Dauenhauer, the German, that's there in second position. It's an Italian that sits there in third place, which is Nicolas Risitano, as they head over at Sacrament-Schelling and in towards the braking area for the Villeneuve chicane for the first true time at racing speed, but albeit this is already lap number 3 of the race that they are on. Spin in the background by the look of things. That's one car that was pointing in the wrong direction, will be gathered up, but already breaking away. Martin Dubeck leads. The car that's pointing in the wrong direction, I'm afraid to say, has thankfully been avoided by everybody. It's now stalled in the middle of the circuit and needs to wait for the gap in the traffic to get going. So that will tumble that car way down through the order. It's Simon Palat that's had the problem, and he should be able to fire the engine into life, but as we say, has to wait. And at the moment, that car is rather stranded in the Villeneuve chicane, pointing in the wrong direction and not exactly out of harm's way. So let's hope that can be removed under localised yellows, or by the time we next get the field round there, he'll be off and away. Over the start-finish line, Martin Dubeck chalks another lap into the book, the first of the flying laps. Nicolas Risitano in second place. Tobias Dauenhauer now down into third. The double winner from Vallelunga sitting right behind the number 12 Chevy, pushing him along as they head through Erst, the first corner. From Erst, then it's down the short straight and up towards Sterrenbach-Vogt, and then from there it's down through Canal Bocht and up towards turn number 4. As the speeds continue to build all of the time, and the lead advantage enormous. 2.8 seconds now is what the Hendricks Motorsport Ford in the hands of Martin Dubeck leads by. Remember, he has never had a win in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, Martin Dubeck. He's had some cracking results in the past, but has never been to victory lane. Nicolas Risitano under pressure from Tobias Dauenhauer. Risitano claimed a win at Circuit Ricardo Tormo last year. He finished third in the second of the 2 races at Vallelunga. He was 5th in the first of those, so at the moment second place would be his best result of the season. The double winner and championship leader sitting behind him as they head through the Villeneuve chicane, having now already completed 4 laps. There goes the number 24 car. That is Guillaume Dumoulin for PK Carsport, his Chevy. Team that he's raced with for a good number of years. Say he is the only driver on the grid that has previously claimed the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series win here at Zolder, but is down in 5th position at the moment. His fellow countryman Dylan Derdal is sitting behind. Now we'll keep an eye towards the fastest laps as well. At the moment, the fastest lap is going the way of Martin Dubeck, 1 minute 48.629. That's already quicker than the EuroNASCAR Pro drivers were doing, which is just going to show how the conditions are substantively better now. That's why we're already seeing quick lap times coming in. Over the start-finish line goes our race leader. Here comes second place Nicolas Risitano ahead of us. Now Alessandro Brigatti is now up into third place, and Tobias Dauenhauer, the number 54, has dropped down into 4th. So dropping down through the order. Dylan Derdal, now number 98, has also managed to get himself ahead of his fellow countrymen. So Guillaume Dumoulin, who was on for 5th place, is now down into 6th position. So a few cars shuffling the order there towards the sharp end of this one. The leading rookie that we've got is still Tobias Dauenhauer, considering he's now dropped from 2nd to 3rd and now 3rd to 4th. He is still the leading rookie that we have. Julia Landau is still the leading lady that we have in the order, and it looks so Yevgeny Sokolovsky down in 11th place, number 48, is still the leading legend trophy driver for those aged over 40 in the field. Up towards the braking area for the cleaner chicane. Almost sideways goes Dylan Derdal as the tail end of the car was starting to just break away a little bit. Now, he's a rookie for the championship as well this year, Dylan Derdal. So if he can catch the car ahead, we might have a fight, not just for 4th and 5th, but a fight for the lead of the rookie category. Martin Dubeck is still continuing to lead this race. Nicolas Risitano and Alessandro Brigatti still rolling their sleeves up over 3rd and 4th place. Brigatti for Feedvict Racing looking slightly quicker of the 2 at the moment, but the Solaris Motorsport Chevy still just ahead of the Feedvict car that sits behind. And then a good queue forming behind Tobias Dauenhauer, who really seems to be struggling in these conditions. Maybe the Hendricks Ford was set up for slightly wetter conditions, and now that it's drier, he's just struggling potentially. Drive-through penalty, we hear, for the car that is in 9th position, number 66, Andreas Jochumsen. Now that's the DF1 Racing Chevy in the hands of the Danish driver. That was for contact with Simon Palat in the chicane, so drive-through penalty is what the officials have deemed is the appropriate punishment for Andreas Jochumsen, and he'll have to bring that number 66 car down pit lane. Now Dylan Daerdal at 4th place, Tobias Downhauer 5th, he might be 6th if he's not careful, because Guillaume Dumouriez is having a quick nibble. Yeah, up the inside goes the PK Car Sport Chevy, side by side with the number 54 as they turn their way through Sterrenbach Book and start to then propel the car round through turn number 3 and up towards turn number 4. Lucien Bianchi-Vogt, speed's continuing to build all of the time, and Daerdal, I think, has managed to go through, hasn't he? He is through, and poor old Tobias Downhauer has also had Guillaume Dumouriez follow through, and now Julia Landauer's trying to get in on the act as well, the number 11 PK Car Sport Chevy. So through the gravel trap of the chicane, the cleaner chicane, goes number 50. Tobias Downhauer needs to be careful, has to stay within the confines of the circuit, otherwise a penalty might be issued to him. But clearly all is not working well with the driver who leads the championship coming into this one and looked pretty much untouchable at Vallelunga, qualified on the front row of the grid, but is now going to be down at the end of this lap, certainly to 6th, might possibly to 7th if he's not careful. Working their way out of turn 14 up towards the Jackie chicane, which is turn 15 and 16. Martin Dubeck comfortably leading the race, already heading out of shot. Here comes Nicholas Rizzetano in 2nd place, under pressure still though from Alessandro Brigatti, who almost is about to try and barge his way through there. The pair of them absolutely together, heading in towards the Jackie chicane. Who's going to come out ahead? It is just Nicholas Rizzetano, but look at the pressure Alessandro Brigatti is putting on, weaving one way, weaving the other as they head in towards the braking area. Nothing doing still. It's still just Alessandro Brigatti that's behind Nicholas Rizzetano as the two Chevys continue to fight away for 2nd and 3rd places. 4th at the moment is going to be, I think it might be Dylan Daerdal that's gone through into 4th over the start-finish line. That will put him ahead of Guillaume Dumouriez once more. There was just 25 thousandths of a second between the pair of them as they came over the start-finish line, and almost sideways coming out of the corner is Alessandro Brigatti. The rear wheels going beyond the curb line, the tail end of the Chevy just starting to break away, but a little bit of arm twirling, he gathered it up, got it back under his spell, and the two of them are still absolutely bumper to bumper into the braking area for the chicane. Over Sacrament Selling and then in towards the braking area for the left and right, and left flicks again at the Villeneuve chicane. Nothing to choose between the pair of them, but they are now slowing each other up, I'm afraid to say, and are getting caught by the cars that are behind. So the battling is slowing them up. They've got a bit of time between themselves and the next of the cars, which is going to be up to 4th for Dylan Daerdal. And if they keep doing what they're doing, it won't be that much longer before they are getting caught by the cars from behind. Thankfully for the moment though, Dylan Daerdal in 5th place behind them is probably more intent on watching his mirrors, because he's under enormous pressure from the number 24 car of Guillaume Dumouriez, having just taken the place away and moved up to 4th on this lap. So 7 laps already completed, side by side for 2nd and 3rd. Alessandro Brigatti trying everything to see if he can unlock the door to 2nd place, but at the moment Nicholas Rizzetano is more than up to the job of making sure that he keeps his fellow countrymen behind, and if anything, Rizzetano has lost time that time heading through the Jackie chicane. Side by side, Dylan Daerdal are fighting away for the pride of the Belgian nation with Guillaume Dumouriez, the two fellow Belgian drivers absolutely together. Daerdal for Cal Racing, Guillaume Dumouriez for PK Car Sport, and they are still bumper to bumper as they now head through turn number 2 and up towards turn number 3. As we heard from Jack Villeneuve, you just keep turning out of 2, which is Sterrenbach Book, and towards Canal Bocht it's all sort of one big sweep, and then from there it's down to this corner here, which is turn number 4. Blue skies as well, suggesting that weather conditions continuing to improve all of the time. Lap times not really coming down now anymore because the tyres maybe are getting overworked a little bit, and that is another key aspect of this. The tyres that they all started the race on will be starting to feel a little bit second-hand now. Dylan Daerdal, having lost 1 place to Guillaume Dumouriez, is now coming under pressure from another one of the PK Car Sport Chevys. Behind him is the number 11 car, that's the blue car with its silver and day-glow flashes of Julia Landauer. So Dumouriez flicks his way through the chicane. There goes Julia Landauer, 28-year-old American, new to the championship this year. Great to see her out in it. Ex-single-seater racer, did a bit of Formula BMW in the US and some Skip Barber as well. has over latter years really been looking at competing in the Canadian Championship and is in for the full season in the 2020 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series EuroNASCAR 2 division. We are back being together again for second and third place. Alessandro Brigatti has managed to catch up the time that he lost coming over the start-finish line last time through. So again, Nicholas Risitano is coming under pressure from the Chevy that sits behind. I think Brigatti's probably the quicker of the two, but some good driving from Risitano, as I was saying earlier, making sure he's neat and tidy off the corners, but they're now side by side, heading up towards the next corner, and I think we are going to have the shuffle. Yet Brigatti has gone through. Alessandro Brigatti now for Feed Vict Racing up into second place. Risitano down into third place. Fourth place is Guillaume Dumoulin, and fifth is the leading rookie at this stage, which is going to be Dylan Derdala, but only just. He's got Julia Landauer, another rookie, right behind him. Nose to tail still for second and third place. All of this is just aiding the cause of Martin Dubeck, who is now 11 seconds up the road in the lead of the race. 9 laps completed. There goes Martin Dubeck. He's under no pressure at all. He can just afford to stroke the car home really and maintain that gap. But at the moment, such as the squabbling that's going on behind, the race leader is still lapping quicker than everybody behind because they are too busy fighting with each other. So a Czech leads, Italians fighting over second and third place, Belgians squabbling over fourth and fifth. The American Julia Landauer is there in sixth place. Then it's another couple of Italians, Vittorio Garelli and Francesco Garisto, who are seventh and eighth. Tobias Dauenhauer, I'm afraid to say, is now down into ninth position, dropped from eighth to ninth on that lap. And the Cypriot driver, number 1, Vladimiras Joitsis, wraps up the top 10 currently. So that gives you the order of the top 10. Martin Dubeck safely on his way. Here's number 48. Now this is Yevgeny Sokolovsky. Here's the leading Legend Trophy competitor that we've got in the field at the moment. He's ahead of Andreas Jochumsen, who was the car that did the drive-through penalty. So that's why Jochumsen is now down in 14th position for DF1 Racing and trying to fight that Chevy through the order. Over the start-finish line comes Guillaume Dumoulin. Now, Julia Landauer here is starting to attack Dylan Derdala. Dylan Derdala starting to move over to cool the tyres. His tyres are clearly overheating now. Tread pattern starts to move around on the general tyres, which is a fantastic tyre, but of course it's not now really suited to these conditions. It's not too wet out there still to put a slick on, but if you are on a wet tyre, then the tyre starts to overheat, which loses you grip. The tread pattern starts to move around ever more, and what we'll see more and more drivers doing now in the sunshine here is moving the car over off the racing line onto the remaining water, particularly on the straights, to try and do anything to cool the tyres down. Because if they don't, then they are really going to be struggling for grip at the end of this race. So Dylan Derdala desperate to try and hang on to 5th position. That's the leading rookie as well. Julia Landauer right with him, fighting for top rookie honours in this one for those drivers in their first season of NASCAR. Now out on circuit, the number 24 car of Guillaume Dumoulin knows this circuit well. He's been hugely successful here in both this series, as I say, claimed to win here in the past, and in things like Belcar and European GT4 that's visited Zolder in the past. Now, his car is coming on strong at this stage. He might have looked after his tyres a little bit better than others, because he set the first fastest time in Sector 1 on this lap. A little bit slower through Sector 2 than he's previously gone, but he could be on for a very quick lap here. And remember, quick laps are important. The time you set in this race will give you your grid position for race number 2, which takes place tomorrow. And at the moment, pole position for tomorrow's race is potentially going to have that number 7 car of Martin Dubeck. He's posted a 1 minute 46.9. He's the only driver into the 1 minute 46 second bracket. So 11 laps completed, 4 laps to go in his first EuroNASCAR 2 race of the weekend. Martin Dubeck leading by 11 seconds, so comfortable in the lead of the race. The last lap he did is now tending to suggest he is easing his pace a little bit. So he's down in the 1 minute 48 second bracket. His best is a 1 minute 46. Some of that will also be to do with tyre deterioration. Martin Dubeck also having to deal with a little bit of traffic on this lap, which sensibly moved well and truly out of the way for him there. So good work there, sliding his way through and past the back marker. That was Igor Romanov, I think, that moved harmlessly out of the way. Now this is the lead battle for the rookies as well, so it's for 5th and 6th overall. Dylan Daredala, the number 98 for Cal Racing, under pressure from Julia Landauer, who, as I say, qualified really well, qualified 4th, but was given a 5-place grid drop, so started 9th, is running in 6th place now, so she's made progress and would desperately like to try and take 5th place away. A, because it's an extra championship point, but B, it also would give her the win, not just in the lady trophy, but also the rookie trophy as well. So up towards the braking area for the Jackie X chicane comes our race leader, Martin Dubeck, comfortably on his way. Nicholas Risitano, who was passed by Alessandro Brigatti a few laps ago, has fallen away dramatically in 3rd position, so his car is now struggling, but the Hendricks Ford that leads the race is still staying on very strong indeed. So there goes Brigatti and Risitano over the start-finish line. Green flag waving at the exit of the Jackie X chicane in the background suggests that somebody's had an off there, and I think it might be Dylan Daredala possibly that's had the off, because Dylan Daredala is dropping down through the order now, and Julia Landauer is up into 5th position. Yeah, Dylan Daredala down into 6th, lost time at the final corner. So it is number 7, Martin Dubeck, that leads the race by now just under 11 seconds. That we see here is Vittorio Garelli and Francesco Garisto, the 2 Italians fighting over 7th and 8th place in the race. Garisto, another one of the rookies that we've got in the EuroNASCAR 2 division for this year. Now the circuit is just looking almost bone dry, isn't it? Julia Landauer up into 5th position now, the number 11 PK Car Sport Chevy, leading the charge of the rookies. She's 8 seconds ahead as well of the car that's 2nd of the rookies, Dylan Daredala, who did recover following his problems at the Jackie X chicane, only lost the 1 place, but say is now way distant to the car that he had been doing battle with, this number 11 PK Car Sport car that is certainly looking good for a rookie win here, the American. Blue flags waving, so Igor Romanov moves neatly out of the way. Julia Landauer accelerates her way past without any trouble whatsoever. 12 laps completed, shortly about to be 13 laps before too much long for the Hendricks Ford of Martin Dubeck. He'll be heading over the start-finish line any second now. Now, the best of the fights that we need to keep an eye towards here is now Nicholas Risitano under pressure from Guillaume Dumouriez for what will be 3rd and 4th places. The 2 of those look really close to each other as they came in towards the braking area for the chicane that time through. And effortlessly, yeah, Dumouriez has gone through. So that now means that Risitano drops down the number 12 car, the Solaris Motorsport Chevy, into what will be 4th position as the number 24 PK Car Sport car goes through. So on his return to the series at his home country, Guillaume Dumouriez looking potentially good for a podium here, which, considering again where he's come from on the grid, is a fantastic result. The revised grid saw Guillaume Dumouriez line up 7th on it, and at the moment he's now up into 3rd place. Fight for 7th and 8th still continuing. Vittorio Garelli is not letting Francesco Garisto through. The 2 of them are locked together. There's another battle just behind those as well, which is, I think, it's number 43, Paul van Pollard, under pressure from Vladimir Joitsis. Nicholas Risitano, number 12, now down into 4th position, the Valencia winner from last year. So far his only win in the EuroNASCAR 2 division. But with the car, I think, just going off a little bit more now as the tyres are starting to feel it. All the way through the chicane, that's the number 18 car of Vittorio Garelli. That will be into the braking area for the cleaner chicane. Now, he was under pressure from Francesco Garisto. Has to be careful that he doesn't gain an advantage through shortcutting. But if he looks in his mirrors, no, Garisto is still there. There's the next of the fights as well. That is Paul van Pollard under pressure from the white and pink car in the hands of the Sitprit driver, Vladimir Joitsis. So it doesn't matter where you look, there are battles, and behind them is now Tobias Dauenhauer, who at the wheel of his number 50 Hendricks Ford, remember, started on the front row of the grid and is really having a bit of a difficult race. Down now into 11th position, I'm afraid to say. 11th place would net him 26 championship points rather than the 40 that he was on in both of the races at Vallelunga. So the race leader is now on to his last lap of the race. At the moment, Martin Dubeck It's also looking as though he's going to be heading towards pole position for tomorrow's race as well, because he's the only driver that's down in the 1 minute 46s throughout the course of this race. 1 minute 46.927 is the fastest lap that we've had of the race. That would see him onto pole position, and at the moment joining him on the front row of the grid for tomorrow's race with the second fastest lap in this EuroNASCAR 2 race is Guillaume Dumoulin, the number 24 car, who has posted a 1 minute 47.434, but on this lap has just gone quicker than anybody has gone through the first sector, so he's pushing hard to see whether he can squeeze a bit more out of the car and try and get pole position. For Martin Dubeck though, 12.1 seconds to the good, turning his way up towards the final couple of corners. It's been a great race from Martin Dubeck, who has not really been troubled at all. There was a charge down towards the first corner where he was under a little bit of pressure from Tobias Dauenhauer, but by the time they got to turn 2, he'd already opened up the advantage, and it does look as though the Czech driver, who had to miss the first round as a result of a positive COVID test, I think it was, wasn't able to travel to Vallelunga, but he is returning with an absolute bounce. And Martin Dubeck, the 25-year-old Czech driver, is about to head over the start-finish line and claim his first career victory in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. He takes the checkered flag and claims the win in the first of the 2 EuroNASCAR 2 races here. Second, it should go the way of Alessandro Brigatti, who is just heading over the start-finish line now to finish in second position, but only 0.4 of a second behind him in the end was Guillaume Dumoulin, who really did charge on that final lap and set his best individual lap of the race, but not quite as quick as Martin Dubeck had done. So Dubeck will also secure pole position for tomorrow's race. Fourth was Nicholas Risitano. Fifth was Julia Landau, also the leading rookie home and the leading lady that we got home. And sixth should be Dylan Derdala coming over the start-finish line, but I think he's had problems on this final lap again and is going to get pipped, I'm afraid, by Francisco Garisto, who moves up from, what was it, 8th to 6th on that final lap, getting past Vittorio Garelli. So Garisto, number 42, finishes in 6th place. 7th place is Vittorio Garelli. 8th place was number 43. The Chevrolet Camaro of Paul van Poelart. Vladimir Choitzis and Tobias Dauenhauer complete the top 10, and I'm afraid for Dylan Derdala, the problems continue. He lost time in the third sector and at the final corner midway through the race, and Dylan Derdala has gone missing, I'm afraid to say, on this final lap of the race at his home NASCAR Grand Prix. So the last few cars go over the start-finish line. There goes Eric Quintal over the start-finish line. Ariana Casserly also still has yet to take the flag. She should be the next of the cars to reappear over the start-finish line. But for Martin Dubeck, he will be as pleased as punch with that one. Couldn't have gone any better for the Czech driver in reality, because not only did he claim a lights to flag victory, it was his first win in EuroNASCAR 2, so he'll be delighted with that. And he's also set the fastest lap of the race. That 1 minute 46.927 will give him pole position for tomorrow's race. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, all subject to official confirmation, of course, is going to be Guillaume Dumoulin, the number 24 PK Car Sport Chevy, and the second row of the grid for tomorrow should be number 8 Alessandro Brigatti, and I think Julia Landauer, because Julia Landauer popped in at 1 minute 48.2. That was just 1/10 of a second quicker than the likes of Nicholas Risitano and Dylan Derdala could do. So I think Julia Landau will line up on what will be the second row of the grid for tomorrow. So the cars are making their way into pit lane. There's Dylan Derdala's car. That was why he lost time again in the final sector, because this time he's going nowhere, I'm afraid to say. He's in the gravel trap at the Jackie X chicane, so it wasn't quite the result that he was after, but the lap time that he posted in that race should be good enough for him to line up in what will be 6th position on the grid for tomorrow. So he's got another opportunity to try and work his way up into contention in tomorrow's EuroNASCAR 2 race. So Martin Dubeck making his way in towards the victory lane area here at Zolder. He will be as pleased as punch with that one. As we say, there are only 4 drivers on the grid in that race that have previously claimed a victory in EuroNASCAR 2. The likes of Guillaume Dumoulin, Nicholas Risitano, Vittorio Garelli and Tobias Dauenhauer. But for Martin Dubeck, he can now add his name to that list as the clearing up of cars is about to take place as well. Simon Palat will be disappointed with that particular race. So it didn't last long for him. He was the first of the cars to retire just 3 laps in. But I'm sure the Feed Victor Racing team will get that car sorted, turn it round, check it all out and make sure that it's out for their second race, which takes place tomorrow morning here at Circuit Zolder. We are scheduled on the stream to go live with our EuroNASCAR 2 race at 11:05 in the morning if it's Central European summertime. If you're watching over in the US, thank you as ever for joining us. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to the whole of the EuroNASCAR team. That we're all part of this big NASCAR family, and we go live tomorrow on the stream at 5:05 in the morning Eastern Daylight Time. So off the roof of the car comes Martin Dubek. He will be really pleased with the stint that he put in there and the fact that he largely controlled the race from start to finish. So we will hopefully, I think, whilst we weren't able to do it for the EuroNASCAR Pro race, I think we are going to be able to grab a word with our winner down there in victory lane very shortly indeed. So there'll be big smiles on his face. We might not be able to see them because he will no doubt have to wear a mask, and it will be a socially distant interview as such, but at least we can gauge some reaction from a first-time winner in EuroNASCAR 2 very shortly indeed. And also keep your eye towards our social media channels, because whilst we only chat to the winner in victory lane, such are the time pressures and difficulties that we're all having to work under at the moment in what's been a strange old year 2020, but some exciting, lots of pure racing still to come up in the 2020 NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. But yeah, I think we are going to grab a word with our winner down there, and all the rest of the drivers we will catch up with on social media. So look towards all the social media channels of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series on Twitter and on Facebook, and we'll get some reaction from the top three in that race, and also the winners of the particular categories as well, the Legend Trophy, the Rookie Cup and the Lady Cup as well. So Martin Dubek just awaiting the thumbs up from the producer down there, and then once we are ready to go, then we will grab a quick word with our winner, Martin Dubek, who's a first-time winner in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. Confirmation of the results sent. We'll head to this before we go to the interview. Martin Dubek is the winner for Hendricks Ford, and Alessandro Bugatti is in second place, with Guillaume Dumouriez for PK Carsport in third place. Nicholas Rittitano is fourth, ahead of Giulio Landauer in fifth place, and Francesco Garisto is sixth. Landauer, of course, also the leading lady home and the winner of the Rookie Trophy as well. From Francesco Garisto is there in sixth place. Vittorio Gorelli was seventh. Paul van Polart was in eighth place. Vladimir Choitsis and Tobias Dauenhauer complete the top 10. Andreas Jochimsen was in 11th place. Max Lancer was 12th. Yevgeny Sokolovsky finished in 13th place. He was the leading driver home in the Legend Trophy for those aged over 40, from Eric Quintal and Ariana Casserly, who completes the top 15. Dylan Deardala was 16th, ahead of Matthias Hauer, Igor Romanov, and Simon Palat was the first retiree in the race. Didn't get many laps in, but hopefully the car is ready to go for tomorrow's EuroNASCAR 2 race. So that gives you the full results for the race that we have just seen. The celebrations continuing down there in victory lane, and just hoping that we might be able to grab that word with Martin Dubek in a few moments' time down there. It'd be great to winner in EuroNASCAR 2. Time to hear from our race winner, who's down there with Andre.
Martin Dubek, finally in victory lane. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's finally. So I'm really happy. I did pole position. It was also my first pole position. It was during the wet quali, so it was good. And I'm really happy with it. My first victory.
So tomorrow it will be the second one?
I hope we will see.
All right, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
So well done to Andre there for catching the interview. We'll try and endeavour to do that tomorrow as well, as we shuffle all of the difficulties and priorities that we need to do, working differently in these really unusual times. But it's great that we are racing and providing pure racing again, not just here this weekend at Zolder, but also when we head to Most in the Czech Republic, which will be Martin Dubek, that race winner's home NASCAR Grand Prix. That's coming up in a few weeks' time. And then our final event of the season will be a double-header event. So it's racing over 3, possibly even 4 days at Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia. That was originally scheduled to be the season opener. It's December, early December, when we slot that one in. So as we say, that's it for the moment. Keep your eye on social media again, on Facebook and on Twitter, because we will be bringing you interviews from the drivers who claimed top honours in their respective categories, and the top 3 as well, with their reactions for what's been the first race this weekend for the EuroNASCAR 2 division. Don't forget, we are back tomorrow with more as well. We are back with the second EuroNASCAR 2 race of the weekend at 11:05 in the morning, Central European summertime. That is 5:05 Eastern Daylight Time if you're watching in the US. And if that's a bit early for you, If you're watching in America in particular, then EuroNASCAR Pro race number 2 of the weekend comes up at 5 minutes past 4 in the afternoon, Central European summertime. That's a slightly more palatable 10 past 5 in the morning, Eastern Daylight Time over in the US. So from myself and all of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series team here in Belgium, have a good evening. I hope you've enjoyed the racing. We'll be back with more tomorrow from Circuit Zolder. Until then, goodbye.